the western air. From the back of a chestnut man, prairie looming everywhere, back in Colorado. I want to smell the springtime wind blowing down the trail again. I want to see all my cowboy friends back in Colorado. I want to pull on the cowboy boots out where the hoot-out-hoots, out where the shooting stars shoot, back in Colorado. I want to ride the rain alone out where the buffalo roam. Never let me wander from my Colorado home.
Across the plains until they came to an abrupt halt hard against the Rocky Mountains. When wild towns began to grow in Oklahoma and Kansas, during the times when the Native American was being pushed from this part of the West. All through the times when gold fever was at its peak here in Colorado, the cattle barons of Texas were pushing their beef north, crossing untamed wilderness, wild rivers, blazing hot deserts, fighting off Indians and bands of lawless rustlers until they reached the major cattle markets in Oklahoma, Kansas and Colorado, and the railheads to ship their beeves back east. The men who pushed those cattle north were a peculiar breed. Hard, tough, able to overcome great adversity, antisocial to a large degree, hard living, hard drinking, quick to anger and hard to beat. They lived under the harshest of conditions. Poor food, sleeping on the ground when not on nighthawk, eating the dust raised by thousands of head of cattle through rain and drought, their lives constantly at risk from fair means or foul. They had many enemies and few friends. They spent many hours with only their horse and the cattle to talk to. They could only carry what fit in their saddlebags, what wrapped in their bedroll, and occasionally what the cook would carry in the chuck wagon for them. It was hard for them to carry a piano, a drum kit, or an upright string bass. So those that could persuaded the cook to carry their guitar. Those that liked to teach themselves as they travelled bought a harmonica. Those that had an imagination scratched words in their head, and if they could write, scratched them down wherever they could. Those with no imagination became congressmen, senators, and presidents. So as the days and nights on the trail turned from weeks to months, there began to grow a camaraderie amongst these normally taciturn men. And they began to tell stories around the campfire, reminiscing about days and men gone before, about horses they'd owned or feats of great skill and courage, of hard times, sad times, bad times, good times, funny times and times to come. They all displayed different skills. Some could tell stories. Some, to make it more interesting, chose to put the stories into rhyme. As they rode around the herds at night, they would sing to the cattle to calm them, and soon these songs came to the campfires as well. There were songs and stories of all nations, just as there were cowboys of all nations. And all these influences became mixed together to form the basis of the cowboy poetry and song that we enjoy today. Willie Nelson once sang a song that said, "This is the last cowboy song, the end of 100-year waltz. The voices sound sad as they're singing along, another piece of America's lost." Sadly, the era of the cowboy in its original form is almost past. But you may notice that whilst there may be a wistful quality to our songs and rhymes, there is also joy and fun. While there are people who love horses and history and the spirit of the West, the cowboys' stories and songs will live forever, and through them, the cowboy will never die. All right. All right. Look at that. I became taller. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Bob Dougherty. I'd like to welcome you to the second annual Morrison Cowboy Celebration. How many of you who were here last year? Okay, you guys, 100%. All right? So that's great. The rest of you, I'm sorry, but 50% is all you can muster. All right, we've got a great show for you tonight. We've got lots of award-winning artists performing for you. I hope you really enjoy yourself. I'm sure you will. I don't see any reason why you shouldn't. Before we start off, I just want to thank Cooley Gravel for their support of this event. Without them, it wouldn't be happening. And we also have a bunch of sponsors who've helped us out, taking out ads in our program and providing services like a limousine service for us and all kinds of stuff. And so welcome everybody again. We'd like to start off this program. We planned the program and we had a fundraiser up at the Fort Restaurant. Sam and Carrie Arnold kindly donated their staff and some food and stuff for us to have a great time up there. And one of the people who came along in response to our postcards we sent out was Pete Smythe, who's a legendary figure here in Colorado. Pete's been on long-term on PBS television, and also had a long, I won't say how long, Pete. They'll start to think about how old you are. On a show on KOA called Pete Smythe's General Store, and he was situated in the East Tin Cup. Now nobody go looking for it, because I doubt that you'll find it. But he offered, while we were up there, generously offered to help us out tonight and to perform for you. So I'd like you all to put your hands together and welcome Pete Smythe, the mayor of East Tin Cup. I don't know whether are you going to come up and do some more, Peter, or you want to?
Not until after you worked a little.
Hey, I get to work later on, you know. But if you'd like to come up here and lead off the show.
I think it's time for a change.
You want to change? Okay, well, we can do that. We can do that. Pete's got to get away. He told me, the attractive young lady that accompanied him here this evening told me that Pete's got to get away early tonight because he's golfing in the morning. So we can't keep him up too late. But what I'd like to do now is introduce somebody to you who I first met at Ardata at the Cowboy Gathering there, the Colorado Cowboy Gathering. He's a poet and a fiddle player and a guitar player, and he can do it all. But I believe tonight he's going to do some poetry for you.
And he's really tall.
And he's very tall. Yeah. Actually, if you really want to know how tall he is, or how short Sean and I are, even allowing for Sean's boots. But this is a good friend of mine, Dennis Fischer. Dennis?
Evening, folks. You know, there's all kinds of shapes that people come in. And as for me, well, I've always been slim. I'm as thin as a post. I'm as tall as a tree. I stand 6'5", but I weigh 163. Now I'm the favorite target of all of the cooks. They say I need feeding from the way that I look. So they, taters and gravy, they pile up high and they cut me out extra when it comes to the pie. Now when haying time comes, I head out with the crew and I grabs onto them old hay bales and I toss me a few, but I must be too slow. 'Cause here comes Big Jim. He says, let me show you how to throw hay bales slim. Well, now the hay bales fly, and I'm really impressed. But this here being slim must be a raw deal, I guess, 'cause he sure outdoes me, and it's just my bum luck. The rest of the day I spend driving the truck. But you know, when there's a dance and we start feeling courtly, that's where I get even with them fellers that's portly. You see, they get them a dance with a pretty young miss, but they can't get close enough to give them a kiss. But them same gals, they're anxious to twirl me all right. They put both arms around me and they pull me up tight, and I just kind of act shy, and I glance at the floor, and them gals go berserk and they squeeze me some more. Yes, sir, life can be tough, as you plainly can see, for a man that's 6'5" and weighs 163, but I'm in pretty good shape for the shape that I'm in. So I thank you all kindly, and you can just call me Slim. Here's a story about, and maybe this is a prime example of contempt prior to investigation. This is a story about Fiddling Tom and Windy Bill. Now the real West, there's a heap of lore and legend about the early West. And there's many a sparkling reputation to which the history books attest. There's the heroes and there's the villains, and you know them all by name, like Doc Holliday and Wyatt Earp and Frank and Jesse James. But the real West was real folks, just like you and me, and Fiddling Tom O'Hara from across the Irish Sea. My granddad told me the day the boss man came around, he said, "Boys, this here is Fiddling Tom. Show him where to bunk on down." "A fiddler," snorts old Windy Bill. "Take your fiddle and be damned. We don't need no dandies here. What we need's another hand." "Now just hold your load," the boss tells Bill. "Before you start a-blowing, I think that we should see what kind of loop the man is throwing." But old Bill is undecided that he didn't give a hoot, and he spits a big old juicy wad right on the stranger's boot. Yep. Nearly 20 minutes later, Bill wakes up on the ground. And he's a-wondering why the stars is out and why the wrench is spinning around. And when at last his ears quit screaming like the whistle of a train, he stands himself up mostly straight, asks the boss man to explain. "Well, I was about to tell you, Bill, that besides the season hand, old Tom there's the toughest son of a gun that ever come from Ireland." Now Bill just stood and rubbed his chin while the crew was making fun. And then he said, "Well, I reckon that I sort of maybe did misjudge him some." And Tom was with the outfit till the spring of 21. And yes, he was a fiddler, and he was a fighting son of a gun, but he was also one of the best cowhands that ever joined that crew. Fiddling Tom O'Hara was a cowboy, through and through. And old Fiddling Tom and Windy Bill had become the best of friends. They was partners, tried and true, right up until the end. Tom caught his death of flu that year and was buried on the hill. And he was carried to his final rest by my granddad, Windy Bill. Thank you kindly. You know, it won't be hard to pick any number of people out, whether it be a small crowd or a large gathering, and they can all tell you a story about their favorite places, favorite folks, favorite animals, especially for those folks that are lucky enough to be the stewards of the land. And this here story is about one of those favorite animals, and this is a story called My Partner Too. Happy birthday, old horse. I know it seems a funny thing to say. Never meant a thing to you being born a certain day, but I never will forget it. You was our very first. My new wife cried tears of joy witnessing your birth. She stayed here in your stall near every night and day. It was her that named you Star 30 years ago today. Oh, you sure like that brushing, don't you? Your old partner liked it too. I guess us humans like the petting, just like horses do. She always was so proud of you. You were something in your day. Whoa now, that old cat won't bite. You just go on and eat your hay. Yes, sir, when folks saw you two coming, they sure would stop and stare. You sure showed them more than once over at the county fair. Got the ribbons to prove it too, hanging right up there on the wall. That big blue one, best to show. That one tops them all. I know it's her you miss, old horse, coming through the door. I know exactly how you feel. It just ain't like before. But we got to pull together now and make the best of it. If she saw us moping around here, why, you know she'd throw a fit. And I think I'm glad the Lord chose her the first one to depart. As had it been you or I, old horse, you know we'd broke her heart. Sure, there's horses up in heaven. Can't think why there wouldn't be. But you ain't up there yet, old horse. So you'll just have to do with me. So come on now and eat your carrot. And quit looking so darn sad. She was my partner too, you know. The best I ever had. Thank you. You folks are a mighty warm and friendly audience. What are you doing next Thursday evening? This here is a little story about the day that Stubby got related. Two of my favorite characters, a couple of cowpokes named Stubby and Jake. The air was sweet and crystal clear. You're perfect, you might say. It was on Sunday morning, and the boys was off this day. Well, someone mentioned fishing in the meadow they all knew, and Stubby says to Jake, let's go up there and catch a few. Well, I'm with you, declares old Jake. You grab the fishing poles, I'll bring along the waders in case we need them for the holes. Well, then they fired up the willies, and before the count of two, it was off across the pasture. Them two crazy cowpokes flew. Well, it weren't no time at all till they was a churning up the water. They was catching brook trout left and right just like they thought they are. Well, when the creels was nearly full of fish, Stubby says to Jake, what say we head for shore there, pard, and take a little break? Well, no sooner had they sit on down and old Jake's face went pale. His eyes was a-bugging out of his head. He's looking up the trail. He said, don't look. Don't turn around. Don't even move a hair. Because looking right at you and me is a giant grizzly bear. Well, soon every inch of old Stubbs' hide begins to crawl and creep, and he says, oh, pard, don't you think it's time we headed for the Jeep? Now just sit tight, says Jake. Let's see what he intends to do. And just then old Grizz lets out a beller, and he heads right for them two. And that put a couple of cowpokes scurrying down the trail, and right behind him is old Grizz, and he's a gaining on their tail. And that's when Stubby starts to praying. with every step he takes. Lord, if I can't outrun that bear, won't you please just let me outrun Jake? I done lost track of time about the minute I walked out here, Bob, so you're going to have to keep your eye on me back there. Okay. What else do we have in the bag of tricks here? A story that
But I'd like to introduce you to a good friend of mine who's been nominated for Male Vocalist of the Year this year against people like Michael Martin Murphy, Don Edwards, and Red Steagall. Ladies and gentlemen, my mate, Bill Barwick.
Thank you. I won't smell the western air from the back of a chestnut mare, prairie looming everywhere back in Colorado. I want to smell the springtime wind blowing down the trail again. I want to see all my cowboy friends back in Colorado. I want to pull on the cowboy boots out where the hoot-owl-hoots, out where the shooting stars shoot back in Colorado. I want to ride the range alone out where the buffalo roam. Never let me wander from my Colorado home. I want to sleep in a cowboy bed, saddle underneath my head, wake up smelling sourdough bread back in Colorado. I want to wake up from my dreams, listen to old cookies scream, "You lazy critter, come and get your beans," back in Colorado. I want to pull on my cowboy boots out where the hoot-owl hoots, out where the shooting stars shoot back in Colorado. I want to ride the range alone out where the buffalo roam. Never let me wander from my Colorado home. My Colorado home.
Now, what I've done here is I've brought Liz up here to help me out.
Well, we've been reading the mail that's been coming backstage, and
We have indeed. And some of it, I might add, has been a little, but never mind.
a little, but never
Yeah,
mind.
yeah.
But Pete Smythe, do you feel like doing a little Wolf Creek Pass and seeing if Elmo could make a brief appearance?
Tell me.
Would you do that for us?
You mean Al Ron?
Would you?
That's the one. We'll even send a pretty lady to help you come up.
That would be great. We hate to take advantage of you, but since you're here,
Might as well.
might as well.
Might as well, yeah. And it's kind of hard to take advantage of somebody your age, baby.
this song,
Young man like you.
I used to be a songwriter. I wanted to be a songwriter because I thought that, what am I sitting on here? How do I look now? Anyway, I wanted to be a songwriter and for truth. So I started writing songs, and I was out in Hollywood for a long time. And this song I sold to the Bing Crosby show. Bing Crosby for Jimmy Stewart. So Jimmy Stewart actually did the thing on the air, and that's been years and years ago. And I've got some tapes at home of it. But let's see if I can remember all of it. It's about you know, the West and all that, the Wolf of Wolf Creek Pass. I'm the Wolf of Wolf Creek Pass, just as smooth as silk, just as sharp as glass. I got a Cadillac coupe, but it was the wrong key. I haven't done this for so long. Does that sound all right to you? I'm the Wolf of Wolf Creek Pass. I think that's where. I'm the Wolf of Wolf Creek Pass, just as smooth as silk, just as sharp as glass. I got a Cadillac coupe, a with the Blackburn bar, a 42 for radio, equipped with radar, the upholstery's made of nylon on the top of silk. You press a button on the dashboard, I pop some old milk. I'm the only guy who really cooks with gas, just calling me the Wolf of Wolf Creek Pass. I'm the Wolf of world renown. You better let me catch you with your panties down. If you're downhearted, I got what you need. I'll chase away your blues, I'm guaranteed. Now I'll work overtime and won't satisfy. I tell you, I can't do this because there's some younger folks here. I actually did the Wolf on the show, and but never got very famous for some reason. So there's another one that I wrote. I'd kind of like to do. Haven't done it for a long time. Let's see. To a dance I did go, where the gowns were cut low, held up only by a strap. The one girl wore a dress. It was odd, I confess. It was made out of a map. Her back was Brazil, her chest Bunker Hill, and just a little bit below was Mexico. Her shoulder blades were Japanese. On her bosom there was Greece. Her lap was Siam. Her hips Hindustan. I'm not quite certain about her thighs. Just then I saw my wife, and to save all the strife, I let the rest of the world.
Pete Smythe, ladies and gentlemen. There's an organization known as the Academy of Western Artists. They perform the same role that the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences do in the motion picture industry. In other words, they give awards to artists and artisans who are associated with Western songs. And we're not talking country and Western, as you hear on the radio all the time. We're talking about Western music and cowboy music and all the things associated with the West as it existed in days gone by and as it continues on right now. What they do is they have a whole bunch of people are nominated, and their work is assessed over the year, and then the people who are members of the Academy vote to give awards to their peers. Happens down in Fort Worth every year, and we have a whole bunch of people on this show that have been nominated for awards. One of them is a good mate of mine, and he's had a bit of a problem. And what he did was, when I first started doing these shows, I always kind of was nervous, you know, before I came out. Not that I'm still not nervous, but a lot less than I was. And he gave me this piece of advice. And he said, if you're nervous, the way to calm yourself down, and I'm sure you've all heard this before, is to stand up here and imagine the audience naked. And let me tell you, some of you look pretty funny. So last year when I introduced him, I said that the only other thing was that what he preferred to doing that now, because he's a lot more relaxed than he used to be, was if you imagine him naked. That was kind of the reaction we got. And of course now he's been keeping company with the same young lady for quite some time now, and she told me that she doesn't want anybody looking at him naked. Okay? So all of you turn that off in your brain. But I'd like to introduce you to a good friend of mine who's been nominated for Male Vocalist of the Year this year against people like Michael Martin Murphy, Don Edwards, and Red Steagall. Ladies and gentlemen, my mate, Bill Barwick.
Thank you. I won't smell the western air from the back of a chestnut mare, prairie blooming everywhere back in Colorado. I want to smell the springtime wind blowing down the trail again. I want to see all my cowboy friends back in Colorado. I want to pull on the cowboy boots out where the hoot-owl-hoots, out where the shooting stars shoot back in Colorado. I want to ride the range alone out where the buffalo roam. Never let me wander from my Colorado home. I want to sleep in a cowboy bed, saddle underneath my head, wake up smelling sourdough bread back in Colorado. I want to wake up from my dreams, listen to old cookies scream, "You lazy critter, come and get your beans," back in Colorado. I want to pull on my cowboy boots out where the hoot-owl-hoots, out where the shooting stars shoot back in Colorado. I want to ride the range alone out where the buffalo roam. Never let me wander from my Colorado home. My Colorado home. Thank you so much. Now, I have to point out that I love that song so much for two reasons. It's one of those that's high enough for me to sing. Good friend of mine by the name of Scott Vaughn wrote that song. If you get down toward Colorado Springs sometime, stop by and visit with the boys from the Flying W Ranch. Scott Vaughn is one of the members of the Flying W Wranglers. And he's been doing that song a long time, and I'm proud to steal it from him. Of course, I did get his permission. Now, I don't know how many of you read the article in the Colorado Country Connection, but just in case you're one of those folks that read all my biography, most of that stuff is true. Yeah, about the 3 ex-wives part, yeah. Next time I get married, I'm going to find somebody I hate and buy them a house. And it's true, that part that they said about being the voice of the Western Channel on TV. If you have a dish at your house and get 24 hours a day a Western Channel, you'll hear my voice on there. Coming up tonight on the Western Channel, Rory Calhoun stars as nobody you ever heard of before. And yes, the other part is true, friends. My major claim to fame. I am, in fact, the voice of the buffalo at DIA. Hey, listen, you know, me and Raynell Lemieux out there, you know, they're still using Pete Smythe's voice down there for the little trolley cars, too. This is not the door to be on the other side. You know? If you go back upstairs, that's where I'll be located, Concourse A or Concourse B, in a little store called the Colorado West. There is a life-size buffalo head on the wall that's been hooked up to an animatronics piece of equipment, something that Disney uses all the time. And if you break the little light beam in that store, the ears will wiggle, and the eyes will blink, and the mouth will move. And you'll never guess whose voice comes out. Well, howdy there. Bet you never had a buffalo talk to you before. I have an 18-year-old niece that takes all of her friends from high school when they come in to visit. She takes them out. I want you to see my Uncle Bill. You think he's funny from this end. Take you back a while with this one here. Shades of night are falling as the winds begin to sigh, and the world is silhouetted beneath the sky. Blue shadows on the tree, blue moon shining through the tree, and the flames wave in the distance sings a song on the evening breeze. Move along, blue shadows, move along. Soon the dawn comes, you'll be on your way. But until the darkness sheds its face, there'll be blue shadows on the trail. Move along, blue shadows, move along. Soon the dawn comes, you'll be on your way. But until the darkness sheds its face, there'll be blue shadows on the trail. Shadows on the trail. Watching the video of that the other night, the Disney video of that. Sons of the Pioneers recorded that a long time ago. And about the only place you can find the best recording is the Disney version of that, with all the cartoon work that they have, all the little animals kind of dancing around, somebody in the background whistling, which is another one of those things that I don't do. That and yodel. Me trying to yodel, right? Sure. When I was growing up, I was fortunate enough to have grown up at a time when there was not a TV around. Consequently, I was one of those blessed folks that grew up with an imagination. I could close my eyes and hear a song and watch the movie all at one time. Put all them TV stations right out of business. This is always one of my favorite stories. And for those of you who are kind of new to Western music, I have to correct you. It was not Clint Eastwood who first muttered those immortal words, "Go ahead, make my day." We don't know the young fellow's name, but we know he was a ranger from Arizona. To the town of Rio, a stranger one fine day. Hardly spoke to folks around him, didn't have too much to say. No one dared ask his business, no one dared to make a slip. Stranger there among them had the big iron on his hip. It was early in the morning when he rode into town. He came riding from the south side, slow looking all around. He's an outlaw, and run came the whisper from each lip. do some business with the big iron on his hip. Big iron on his hip. And I am this town that lived an outlaw by the name of Texas Red. And many tried to take him, and that many more were dead. He was vicious and the killer, though he used of 24. Notches on his pistol, covered in 1 to 19 more. 1 to 19 more. Now the stranger started talking. They didn't play with the folks around. It was an Arizona Ranger. Wouldn't be too long in town. He came here to take an outlaw back alive or maybe dead. He said it didn't matter. He was after Texas Red. After Texas Red. And it wasn't long before the story was related to Texas Red. The outlaw didn't worry, men that tried before were dead. 20 men had tried to take him, 20 men had made a slip. 21 would be the Ranger with the big iron on his hip. Big iron on his hip. Now the morning passed quickly, there's time for them to leave. It was 20 past 11 when they walked out in the street. Folks watching from the windows, everybody held their breath. They knew this handsome Ranger was about to meet his death. About to meet his death. There was 40 feet between them when they stopped to play. The swiftest of the Ranger is still talked about today. Texas Red had not cleared another for a bullet fairly ripped. The Ranger's aim was deadly with the big iron on his hip. It was over in a moment, and the folks had gathered round. There before them lay the body of the outlaw on the ground. Well, he might have won, but he made one fatal slip when he tried to match the Ranger with the big iron on his hip. Big iron on his hip. Big iron. When he tried to match the Ranger with the big iron on his hip. Big iron on his hip. Go ahead. Make my day. I caught you were watching the movie, weren't you? I want to point out to you that all of us are performing tonight. Awful glad to be here with you. Glad that you could come share with us some of the music. Just to remind you, we all have music that you can take home with you tonight. We'd like to visit with you and maybe sign an autograph and have you take some of our music home tonight. It's not that I need the money. I'm independently wealthy. But there's a guy named Guido that waits for me right after every show. If you're a lover of Western music and if you don't have any music recorded by Red Steagall, your collection is not complete. Red Steagall may be the best kept secret in Western music today. And this is one of his best. I liked it so much I recorded it on my new album called Living the Dream. There's one empty car in Bunkhouse, saddle with nobody riding. There's one empty place at the table, Ramuta's 5-horse shy. We turned straight out of pasture. He'll never ride on no more. We buried him out on the hillside last Sunday. Another good cowboy is gone. Oh, he came on the train to West Texas from a farm back in East Tennessee. And all of his life he just wanted a cowboy. He came west to fulfill his dream. Got his first job on the 6s. And was 40 some odd years ago. And in breaking the bad ones, he's the best that we've seen. One hell of a hand with a rope. I saw him just one time in service. That's the day that the boss lady died. You could tell by the way he'd treat people and horses. He'd made his own deal with his God. Oh, he hated the fence and dig post holes. He would if he's asked to, of course. And he swore that there's nothing in life that's worth doing if it can't be done from a horse. And he taught me to top out wild ones, how to tell a good horse by his eyes, how to watch in the roundup when a cow's on the prod. She's hiding her baby nearby, but we ain't changed a thing, Bunkhouse. We're not ready to admit that he's gone. His hot roll still lays across the foot of his bed. His leggings still hang on the wall. Now there's one empty cottage bunkhouse. There's a saddle nobody rides. There's one empty place at the table. Remuda, 5 horses shy. The Remuda is 5 horses shy. Thank you so much. You've been a great day.
Go Barwick, ladies and gentlemen.
You brought your friends. 1,000 miles of wilderness they call the Great Divide, riding through the mountains on the northern Utah side. A man can really find himself in the gallows of the hills. He casts his gaze to the sunset, the starry rocks in the rills. The eagle flies across the sky, maybe to the mussel shell. I think of all the stories these mountains have to tell. Well, how'd it be to be the first to see after riding across the plains, or coming west to stand the test on an old-time Union train? God must have took a hand at carving the Rockies of the West, and I take pride when I ride through the mountains I love best. When the snows are falling and the wild winds calling, them mountains ain't no. And it's a high and lonesome feeling, you riding all alone. With the help from Charles M. Russell, God took his mighty hand, and he saved his best for the Wild West, and he carved the devil's land. Now the wind has settled down, and the sky is fading blue, and the moon is on the rise again, and my day now is all through. Before I turn back to the trail that winds me back to home, I stare off into the evening, out across this Yellowstone. And somewhere in the sunset, God's smiling back at me. And I'm thinking for the West, and I know we've been blessed in a land where men are free. But when the snows are falling and the wild winds calling, them mountains ain't no. And it's a high and lonesome feeling when you're riding all alone. With the help from Charles M. Russell, and God took his mighty hand, and he saved his best for the Wild West, and he carved the devil's land. Yeah, he saved his best for the Wild West, and he called the Devil's Land. God save some lucky men to be cowboys. No ordinary man can wear the name. Hearts of gold and hands of leather, and that restless spirit no one will ever tame. Branded by the land, befriended by the wind, well, you may never pass this way again. But something in the wind is saying that your time is now, boy. And your daddy calls you a drifter, I call you cowboy. Well, that voice of freedom is calling you down the line, and you don't know where you're going, but you know what you leave behind. So you're saddling up now to chase your dreams, to show yourself and the world what freedom really means. You've been branded by the land, befriended by the wind, but you may never pass this way again. But something in the wind is saying that your time is now, boy. And your daddy calls you a drifter, I call you cowboy. She's got eyes as blue as the sky. Whoever said cowboys don't cry? It's just something deep inside saying that your time is now, boy. And your daddy calls you a drifter, I call you cowboy. Yeah, your daddy calls you a drifter, I call you friend, I call you cowboy, I call you cowboy, well, I call you cowboy.
She has 2 books nominated for the best publication, and also one of her tapes has been nominated as well. Is that the right way around?
1 book, 2 tapes.
1 book, 2 tapes, I'm sorry. But last year, at the Academy Awards, this young lady beside me was privileged to receive the Will Rogers Award for the Female Cowboy Poet of the Year for 1982. Maggie Mae Sharp.
Thank you, Bob. First of all, thank you all for being here. What a wonderful audience. We've been listening to you backstage, having fun. Are you having a good time? Yeah. Wonderful. The second thing I want to do is I have to thank all the people on the committee that have made this possible. What a lot of you folks in the audience don't realize is the amount of work and dedication, and this is all done on a volunteer basis. And I would like to do a special thanks, please, to Roger Poe, Sandy Weeks, and Sally White. Would you all please give them a hand? And that's about the nicest thing I'm going to do tonight. I'm doing this particular piece first by special request. This is my book, The Huntress, which is available at your stand out front. And see, the thing about it is they pay us enough money to get to these gatherings, but we're on our own to get home. And you know, I don't have a whole lot of trouble hitchhiking, but some of these guys is kind of sad. So, if you happen to be kind. This is a poem. It's called The Huntress, and it's a story about a mail order bride. And I myself, foolishly enough, was a mail order bride. And as my father reminded me, I could have ended up at the bottom of a well, but I didn't. Instead, I became a cowboy poet, because I'm also a cowboy. And sometimes people don't realize that ladies are cowboys also, but they were there from the very beginning, right alongside the fellas. And that's why I like to tell these stories. I like to tell stories of the West, of the legends and the romance, because it was very important to the settling of the West. So I hope that you will enjoy The Huntress. Maggie Mae McGilroy was a bride from an eastern state. She'd come out on the westbound stage to marry Jesse Tate. She was a woman proper, of breeding mighty fine, who'd stayed at home to nurse her pa until the day he died. And now way past her prime, she would become a rancher's bride. The trip was long and hot and rough, and there were several times she'd about had enough. But Jesse's photo bid her on. Sometimes she felt sure that she was drawn, as if some strings came from her heart, with no control upon her part. The stage had stopped in Elko town, and nervously she searched the crowd for Jesse's face, afraid and proud. And slowly as she left the stage, she saw him there all lean and tall, and in his hand wild flowers, big and small. They smiled and shook a banker's shake as he threw her bags in the old buckboard, and they set out walking down the street to a ceremony with the Lord. Well, Maggie Mae, she took to ranching life like ducks will take to water. She soon learned how to rope and ride, and it weren't too long before she loved and surely made her man a very proud and happy father. Their love and passion was renowned throughout their countryside, and many men did envy Jesse's fine mail-order bride. He gave to her a buckskin stud, and she trained him as her own. And he was fine and strong and gentle, and he loved her and her alone. And they would often ride together with the baby in a pack, while Jesse taught her how to hunt, how to navigate, and track. You never saw two people who were ever more in love than Maggie Mae and Jesse, their love sanctioned from above. While they slowly built their place, their little boy was their whole life. And Jesse thanked the Lord most every day for his son and for his wife. Now it was early spring on a warm March day when a neighbor came for Maggie Mae to help to birth a baby just a couple miles away. She hugged the boy and kissed her man and climbed up in the seat and set out for the neighbor's place, her own life complete. Well, now that day was warm enough for laying in some wood, so Jesse and the boy began to lay in what they could. About 3 o'clock the boy wore down, and Jesse sent him for a rest, then continued with his chopping wood, just doing it like everything and giving it his best. A winter's breath blew down his neck and gave him quite a chill as he noticed a strange rider was then a-coming down the hill. His horse was lame and he looked wore out, like he'd been riding hard. Jesse didn't like the look of him as he rode down in the yard. The stranger tipped his hat, but stayed up on his horse. He confirmed his mount was lame and said he'd like to buy a horse. Jesse said that he had none to spare, but the stranger didn't hear his words as he saw that buckskin there. He asked how much the stud horse brought. He said he would pay well. But Jessie said it was his wife's, and she'd surely give him hell. Jessie told him he could rest a spell, and then offered him a plate, and went back to his chopping wood, not knowing his near fate. The stranger looked about again to make sure no one was around, and then pulled out his pistol and put Jessie on the ground. That stranger had no feeling at having shot an unarmed man, as he went all through his pockets and took the ring from off his hand. A sound behind him startled that stranger with no heart, and he turned and shot before he'd seen the boy who'd woken with a start. As the buckboard turned by the Quakey stand and rounded down the hill, Maggie Mae, she felt unrest, as though she'd felt Jessie's chill. The buckboard stopped, and she climbed down. The sheriff and some deputies was milling all around. The stud horse wasn't there, and there was blood all on the ground. Her heart felt like it would explode as she pursed her lips to speak, but no words would then come out, and she began to feel all weak. The sheriff took her by the hand and led her slowly up the stairs, and it seemed she did not understand, like her mind flew in the air. Through a wall of tears, she saw her there on the bed, two bodies, one about Jessie's size, and a small one, and both were dead. Slim said it was a stranger, ne'er foreseen around these parts. He took the buckskin stud horse. He took the watch and all the cash, soon as he shot Jessie in the heart. We tracked him to the mountains. We think we lost him in the storm. We think he's headed for Cheyenne, so we come in to get warm. Seems he's killed 2 men near Virginia City, and there's a bounty for his hide. You know, he's picked his own death trap to ride, that buckskin with that weighted shoe. She looked blindly all around her home, as if she could see nothing, and yet everything they owned. The neighbor broke the silence and asked the men to leave, to give Maggie time to gather wits and a little time to grieve. The funeral was quite somber, and Maggie never spoke a word. And of all the flowery words the preacher spoke, there wasn't one she heard. Next day the sheriff nailed the wanted poster to the wall, with the face of Jessie's killer, the man he wanted dead, the very most of all. And suddenly he heard a sound that he had heard before, the jingle of those tiny spurs, and the rustle of that prairie skirt that he knew was only hers. He turned and saw her standing there, all dressed in riding gear. She'd walked all the long way into town, and he knew why she was here. Slim said, you know, a warrior is most powerful when he prays before the battle. Won't you say a prayer with me before you go cinching up your saddle? She looked at him in disbelief that quickly turned to hate and said, where was your God the day before I buried Jessie Tate? He untied his own horse and gave the reins to her, and without a word she climbed aboard and stared at him, her eyes all filled with hurt. Slim said, wait here, please, Maggie Mae, and stepped into the door and came back without all he had to give. There just wasn't any more. He handed her some money and tied on his saddlebags. A 30-30 in its scabbard he tied beneath her knee, an old poncho made of rabbit fur to make sure she wouldn't freeze, a bedroll and some food supplies and a tiny kiss goodbye, and in a holster way too big, his silver barrel .45. Slim said, try to stay above him, and be sure to stay downwind. That stud horse is sure to smell you, and your success depends on him. I wish that I could stop you. I fear you won't come back alive, but I know you'll never rest till you have justice on your side. He handed her the poster, and she looked at it with hurt, and Slim watched her pain turn into hate as she filed it in her shirt. She found the trail real easy. 3 tracks in a weighted shoe. And she followed him for 3 long days, and through the full moon all night too. And through her spyglass soon she saw him, camped just beyond the crest, a perfect place when it was time, the way she knew was best. She camped there that night without a fire. Her hate, it kept her warm. And she put her plan in motion as he saddled up at dawn. And just as he climbed up in the seat and went to set the stirrups on, she whistled for that stud horse, and he came in at a run. The stranger didn't understand as he tried to rein around, but the bond between the woman and that buckskin was too strong. And when he was within her range, she pulled her rifle out to let him know that he was caught, and it did no good to shout. The buckskin nuzzled on her neck, and tears filled up her eyes, but she fought them back and quickly tied the stranger good and tight. He asked her many questions, but she never answered none, and she put him on the sheriff's horse, and on the buckskin led him home. 3 days and nights he talked to her, to try to change her mind. He offered money, anything she'd want, if she'd just remove his binds. He told her she was pretty, said she'd make him the finest wife, said that he would love and cherish her for all the rest of their new life. He said that bounty hunting weren't no job for a woman fair, and he said he'd like to lay her down and drown in the beauty of her hair. She began to smile at him and seemed to listen to his lines, and about 60 miles from Elko Town, they stopped to camp near the Tuscarora mines. Next morning, as they broke their camp, she finally spoke to him, and she said that he could have the horse, but that he couldn't have no gun. She took the watch and money from out his saddlebags, and she let him saddle up the gray while she listened to him brag. He told of all the things they'd have and the love that they would make, and then he crawled up on the dappled mare, saying it was time for camp to break. But she just stood beside the stud horse, kind of fussing with her clothes, and after putting on her gloves, she pulled her hat down to her nose. He began to sweat because he couldn't see her eyes, and a chill went down his back as she raised up that .45. She said, "I gave that watch to the man I loved on the day that we were wed, and my son was only 4 years old on the day you shot him dead. I raised that buckskin stud horse to only come to me. Your thieving has brought you into my hands. It's pure providence, you see." He said, "You wouldn't shoot an unarmed man, now would you, Maggie Mae?" Her tiny fingers gripped that silver colt even tighter than before, and as she pulled the hammer down, you could tell he wasn't really sure just what Maggie Mae would do. And in a voice as cold as winter's ice, she said, "I don't know, John Dunn. Would you?" The bullet seemed to travel slow when he watched it coming in, and in slow motion did he go to the place he'd pay for all his sins. She drug him on a travois the last 60 miles to town, and there in front of Slim, she slowly cut him down. She handed Slim the poster that gave the right to kill, and she said, "You keep the money, Slim, to pay for your goodwill." And as she turned to ride back out of town, she turned to pull another face, another poster down. And the deputy, he asked of Slim, would she ever come back home? Would she come to visit Jesse's grave or to live in their old home? Now Jesse, he was Slim's best friend, and Slim loved Maggie too, but he knew now that Maggie died the day they buried Jesse Tate, and that this was someone new. And he said, "No, my friend, now she is a huntress, a seeker of wanted men, and with her beauty she'll crawl in through their eyes and then into their souls, and if their luck be running high, she'll only sell them for the price. But if their draw is low, or if they've thrown unloaded dice, she'll blow their hearts into the wind with that silver .45. After all, the posters say, my friend, bring 'em in, dead or alive." And the day will come, she'll cross the line, and they'll send someone for her hide, and then her tortured soul will be set free. But dear God in heaven, sweet Lord above, I just pray it's never me. About kids. And anybody who has had kids around or knows what kids can get into will understand. And this particular one started with a friend of mine who's a photographer in Ohio, and he came out to film a branding. He wanted to do an expose on cowboys and branding. And he went back home, and he called about 3 weeks later, and he said, you know, I got to tell you this story, and I want you to write a poem about it. So I wrote this especially for a friend. It's called Happy Mother's Day. Now this tale's a kind of funny one for you folks who don't like cats. But it ain't just anything you'd think would happen quite like that. Well, last year Uncle Jim went west to visit his brother and wife, and he drug along his video to document some ranching life. And when he come back home, he told tall tales of all the things he'd done, and he gathered all the family up while the video he did run. There was Kate and Sue and little Ed and Grandma and Grandpa too, and we did it up on Mother's Day, and at the end went to the zoo. Now this reunion was at Grandma's house. And boy, she was sure proud to see her kin. She popped up a bunch of poppin' corn while we all gathered to begin. Well, there he was, as big as life, Uncle Jim up on that horse. And there he was then on the ground, which we all knew would come, of course. And all them kids was asking questions about all the things he'd done. Uncle Jim was puffed up like a toad, all proud in the noonday sun. He explained to little Katie that they was putting on a brand because the ranchers had to mark their cows in case they wandered round the land. Said they used an iron to burn it on, but that it didn't hurt too much. Said they barely touched it to their skin, just a teeny, tiny touch. He then told Sue and Eddie why they had to cut the little boys was so they wouldn't make no babies and end up with a shortage of calf toys. They tell you stuff like that in Catholic school. He explained why they would stretch them out and how they'd hold them down, and he told them about the ear tags and the vaccines on the ground. Well, about 2 o'clock, us grown-ups was about ready for a change of scene, and the men was all disgusted and the women was turning green. So we all set out to change our clothes to get ready for the zoo, while them kids was playing in the yard, just doing what kids will do. Well, I guess it must have been pure fate that had put me out there first, 'cause what I saw there in the yard near made me want to burst. There was Kate and Sue on tricycles in their finest cowboy gear. They had hats and spurs and plastic guns and grins from ear to ear. But when I looked again in a second more, I saw an awesome sight. And I dearly hoped that Grandma was kept away, 'cause she'd die from fright. Them kids had drug the clothesline down and cut it clean in two, and at each end attached that cat that Grandma called Dear Blue. The other ends was on them trikes, and Kate and Sue had him stretched plumb out. While little Ed was working the ground, well, I watched him move about. It hadn't took him too long to learn his trade, and he had his tools all by his side. He had Grandma's curling iron stretched out on electric cords. It made perfect sense to me, since they weren't allowed to play with fire. He had the pinking shears to cut that cat, and Grandma's cameo to tag his ear. And he had that cat completely stretched and was a-heading for his rear. Katie and Sue held their dally strong as Dear Blue began to roll his eyes. I guess he'd scratched them kids one too many times, and now he was up for a big surprise. Now, I figured that if Grandma knew, she'd probably have a pretty piece to say. But I just turned and walked back into the house, 'cause I never liked that dirty cat anyway.
It's a short night tonight. That's as opposed to a short night. Just a second, I gotta move furniture in.
I still think it looks better over there.
Well, I know that the next people have to kind of move microphones around and get themselves set up. So I have a request to do a short poem for you, which I'd like to do. This one's called The Rough Rider. And a stockman in Australia is the equivalent of a cowboy here. This goes something like this. Stockman stood by his nervous steed on the near side, ready to mount with speed. He swung to the saddle and found his seat as the horse began bucking and kicking its feet. And its off hind hoof found a stirrup free and wedged itself in as tight as could be. In swing category, I'd like to give you Liz Masterson and Sean Blackburn.
Thank you, Bob.
Wow. We're so happy to be here for the second year and really enjoy seeing some of you back from last night. That's great. Some of you were back from last year and some from last night.
Yes.
Wowee. So I thought that was such a neat introduction that that Bob did at the beginning of the evening, where he sort of put this whole thing in context. And we thought, you know, there wouldn't be contemporary cowboy songs if there weren't the old cowboy work songs, the folk songs, if you will. So I think this is the perfect night to sort of take ourselves back 100 years and sing the songs like they did around the fires and around the old Chisholm Trail. They do these sing-alongs, you see, and then they get sort of stumped for words. So they try to add words. Each songwriter would sort of get stumped. So they'd pass around a bottle of Jack Daniels. And then that would sort of loosen up the creative flow, I guess you will. And so you'll see what happens when songwriters and whiskey connect. It's not a pretty sight, but this will be your part. The part of the song that we'll have you do will be...
The average age of those old cowboys writing these songs was 24.
That's
A lot of them were teenagers.
That's true. So your part, where the whiskey comes in, goes like this. Come-a-tie-ya, yippee, yippee-yi, yippee-yay. Come-a-tie-ya, yippee, yippee-yay.
Yeah.
And when in doubt, if you get lost anywhere in the song, just yell out, yip! Anywhere you think is appropriate, it'll be just fine.
It's very hip to you.
Let's learn it line by line. I'll go first. Come-a-tie-ya, yippee.
Come-a-tie-ya, yippee.
Yippee-yi, yippee-yay.
Yippee-yi, yippee-yay.
Come-a-tie-ya, yippee.
Come-a-tie-ya, yippee.
Yippee-yay.
Yippee-yay.
All right.
If you forget the words, just read my lips.
All right, let's do the chorus before we forget it. A 1, 2, here we go. Come-a-tie-ya, yippee, yippee-yi, yippee-yay. Come-a-tie-ya, yippee, yippee-yay. Once more. Come-a-tie-ya, yippee, yippee-yi, yippee-yay. Come-a-tie-ya, yippee, yippee-yay. Well, come along, boys, and listen to my tale. I'll tell you all my troubles on the old Chisholm Trail. Come-a-tie-ya, yippee, yippee-yi, yippee-yay. Come-a-tie-ya, yippee, yippee-yay. Well, we left old Texas October 23rd, driving down the trail with a 2-year herd. Come-a-tie-ya, yippee, yippee-yi, yippee-yay. Come-a-tie-ya, yippee, yippee-yay. I got a $10 horse and a $40 saddle. I'm going out west to hunt Texas cattle. Come-a-tie-ya, yippee, yippee-yi, yippee-yay. Come-a-tie-ya, yippee, yippee-yay. Sean.
What?
Play the guitar. Well, that old Bob Dougherty's a dang good boss, but he goes to see the gals on a soreback horse. Come-a-tie-ya, yippee, yippee-yi, yippee-yay. Come-a-tie-ya, yippee, yippee-yay. It's cloudy in the west and it looks like rain. My dang old snicker's in the wagon again. Come-a-tie-ya, yippee, yippee-yi, yippee-yay. Come-a-tie-ya, yippee, yippee-yay. Oh, it's biscuits and beans every day. I'd sooner be eating at the Blue Cow. Come-a-tie-ya, yippee, yippee-yi, yippee-yay. Come-a-tie-ya, yippee, yippee-yay. Guitar, get down on that thing now. Oh, you don't see Brenn Hill doing that. What are you doing?
big-time, rich, famous guitar players do.
Brenn Hill doesn't do that. Why are you doing that?
The guys that make all the money play that way.
The guys that can't play the guitar. I get it. Well, I woke up this morning on the old Jim Trail, a rope in my hand, cow with a tail, come and tie-ya, yippee-yippee-yi, yippee-yay, come and tie-ya, yippee-yippee-yay. So I went to old Roger to draw my roll, but he had me figured out $9 in the hole, come and tie-ya, yippee-yippee-yi, yippee-yay, come and tie-ya, yippee-yippee-yay. I love this cowboy gathering. Let's see, where were we? Oh yeah, I went,
Yep.
where were we?
That's the one.
Where's the last verse? Oh yeah, where Sean plays a stunning guitar. Great. And I talked through the whole thing. Just like the ink spots. So I'm going into town to see my honey. Going into Morrison to spend my money. Come and tie-ya, yippee-yippee-yi, yippee-yay. Come and tie-ya, yippee-yippee-yay. Last chance to be hip. Come and tie-ya, yippee-yippee-yi, yippee-yay. Come and tie-ya, yippee-yippee-yay. Oh, thanks a lot. This is so neat being here. That song, by the way, is on our album Kids at Heart. So if you want to really know how all the verses go, you can get the album. This next song we're real happy about. It's one that I've been singing with my band, the Cactus Crooners, since about 1984. Written by a dear friend of mine, Nancy Thorwardson. And last year, I guess, it was selected on a Rounder 4-CD set, a collection of 70 years of recorded cowboy music. And we're real proud to get to share this song. It sort of sounds like it was written back in the 1930s, maybe, but it was written in 1983 by Nancy Thorwardson, and it was one of the first songs Sean and I recorded.
That's easy for you to say.
Well, it wasn't easy. It was actually kind of tricky. But anyway, sort of in celebration of this beautiful night here in Morrison, we'll do a little of the My Prairie Home for you.
I'll be here forever, happy to roam my prairie home. The man in the moon is smiling down on me. He sings a song as I ride along, happy as I can be. When I'm out riding the prairie, sagebrush blooms and sweet perfumes, I'll be here forever, happy to roam my prairie home. Yes, I'll be here forever, happy to roam my prairie home.
Thank you.
Nancy Thorbertson, what a fine songwriter and a fine person. Well, here's the one I wrote. I didn't mean to write this song. I didn't want to be one of those songwriters, but I had to write this song because I have a problem. See, Liz and I haven't always been like this, but ever since we got to be these big, huge, rich, famous superstars, traveling around the country, playing in these huge auditoriums, like this one, in front of thousands and thousands of cheering, applauding fans, like you. Cheering, applauding fans. Well, I have a problem. See, people keep coming up to me every day, 10, 20, 30, sometimes a dozen times every day. And they're always saying, they say, Sean, how did you get to be so cool? They're like, dude, you're so hip, man, like, what's your secret? And I got sick and tired of answering that question every day, so I put the answer in a song. And you can sing along. You gotta have a mustache to be cool. You gotta have a mustache or you're a fool. Well, you just ain't hip without that fur up on your upper lip. You gotta have a mustache, everybody. You gotta have a mustache, unless you're a girl. You gotta have a mustache, and then better curl. Without those handlebars, you can ride your bike, but you know you won't get too far. You gotta have a mustache. Oh, play the guitar, furry. Yeah, you with the caterpillar on your face, pick that thing. Looks like a bear jumped in his mouth and left his foot sticking out. You gotta have a mustache or a beard. You gotta have a mustache or you're weird.
Poetry crowd.
That's a dandy. That was made by that saddle maker.
A friend of mine that had a ranch up in Bondurant, Wyoming, had a
Colorado. Each night I sit beside the campfire dreaming in England's hills and dales across the sea. And as I watch the embers softly gleaming, I
that leg. Slip. You got a better one? Yes, it'd be nice.
Yeah, yeah.
No, I'm not the one.
Beautiful brown eyes.
Beautiful brown eyes?
Yeah. That's old.
How many people have ever heard the one he just talked about?
Yeah.
Beautiful
I have so. Well, I think it was.
I'm a cube artist.
Beautiful, beautiful brown eyes.
Yeah, that's right.
We got me right off the bat.
My blue eyes.
Hey, I know. That's why you sing.
No. you get to have somebody
Like
else
back in the
take a
South.
shot.
Back in the
Yeah. How about old Shad?
I'm not going to ask for any more tunes. Play something I know here. We got some money to give away?
Quarter.
Quarter? Demolished quarter right there.
voices out there. They really are. Name another kind of a western tune.
Happy Trail. Riding on Pink. Red River Valley. Red River Valley.
Don't fence me in. Don't fence me in.
Sure. See if you know this one. We just did that, didn't we?
What is this? This big bowl here, what is this? I'll just try on this. I love to play piano in the whorehouse. That's always been my one desire. Some would be beggars or run a ranch near Butte, but I'd rather beat the ivories in a house of ill repute. Don't sneer at this humble occupation. Carnal populations here to stay. What the hell does that mean? I mean to say, I give up fame and riches just to play for those sweet witches. Oh, I'd rather play piano in a house. And that kind of gets you right here.
Well, of course, Pete Smythe told me I needed to do some work, so I guess it's up to me. But before I commence, as I said, what was that fellow's name? Bill, that's him. Good mate of mine. As Bill said, don't forget the performance. I got a lot of tapes and records for sale out there, and all tapes and CDs. Sorry, not records. We're done with that era, right? The only records that any of us have got now, we don't want to sell to you. You're not supposed to know about. But at intermission, which will happen after I'm finished here, if anybody that's feeling like a cup of coffee or a cold drink or whatever would like to, you can come around the back of this hall and walk up through the gardens to the cafe, just 2 places up, or you can walk up the front street. It's called the Rock Garden Cafe. And they're staying open specially to serve you all kinds of exotic coffees and tea. I said exotic, okay? Just watch yourself there. I can see you getting all excited. And you're still going to listen to me yet. So, I spent most of the time that I was growing up working the summers in the snowy mountains of Australia, which are on the New South Wales Victorian border. And my uncles all had properties down there, or ranches as you guys would call them. And we spent the summer up in the mountains running cattle and also chasing wild horses all over the place. And we just had a great time, and that was where I learned to ride a horse, really, because I was pretty much of a city boy before that. And so I'd like to do you a poem that has been made famous by a movie, and it was a poem that was written by a guy called Banjo Patterson, and it's called The Man from Snowy River. And if you ever see the movie, when you see the guys riding away from you, thundering away from you across the river, I'm the third ass from the left. Hey, if I don't brag on myself, nobody else is going to, you know? Okay. The Man from Snowy River, ladies and gentlemen. There was movement at the station, for the word had passed around that the colt from Old Regret had got away and had joined the wild bush horses. He was worth £1,000. So all the cracks had gathered to the fray, all the tried and noted riders from the nation, stations near and far, had mustered to the homestead overnight. For the bushmen love hard riding where the wild bush horses are, and the stock horse snuffs the battle with delight. There was Harrison who made his pile when Pardon won the cup, the old man with his hair as white as snow. But few could ride beside him when his blood was fairly up. He'd go wherever horse and man could go. And Clancy of the Overflow came down to lend a hand. No better horseman ever held the reins, for never a horse would throw him while the saddle girths would stand. He learned to ride while droving on the plains. And one was there, a stripling on a small and weedy beast. It was something like a racehorse, undersized, with a touch of Timor pony. 3 parts thoroughbred at least, and such as are by mountain horsemen prized. He was hard and tough and wiry, just the sort that won't say die. There was courage in his quick, impatient tread, and he bore the badge of gameness in his bright and fiery eye, and the proud and lofty carriage of his head. And yet, so small and weedy, one would doubt his power to stay, and the old man said, "That horse'll never do for a long and tiring gallop, lad. You better stop away, these hills are far too rough for such as you." So he waited, sad and wistful. Only Clancy stood his friend. "I think we ought to let him come," he said, "for I warrant he'll be with us when he's wanted at the end, for both his horse and he are mountain bred." He hails from Snowy River down by Kosciuszko's side, where the hills are twice as steep and twice as rough, and the horses' hooves strike firelight from the flintstones every stride, and the man that holds his own is good enough. And the Snowy River riders on the mountains make their home, where the river runs those giant hills between. Well, I've seen full many riders since I first commenced to roam, but nowhere yet such horsemen have I seen. So he went. They found the horses by the big mimosa clump, and they raced away towards the mountain's brow, and the old man gave his orders. Boys, go at 'em from the jump. No use to try for fancy riding now. And Clancy, you must wheel 'em. Try and wheel 'em to the right. Ride boldly, lad, and never fear the spills. For never yet was rider that could keep that mob in sight once they gained the shelter of those hills. So Clancy rode to wheel 'em. He was racing on the wing where the best and boldest riders take their place, and he ran his stock horse past them, and he made the rangers ring with his stock whip as he met them face to face. And they halted for a moment while he swung that dreaded lash, but they saw their well-loved mountains full in view, and they charged beneath the stock whip with a sharp and sudden dash, and off into the mountain scrub they flew. And fast the horsemen followed, where the gorges, deep and black, resounded to the thunder of their tread, and their stock whips woke the echoes, and they fiercely answered back from the cliffs and crags that beetled overhead. And upward, ever upward, the wild horses held their way, where Mountain Ash and Currajong grew wide, and the old man muttered fiercely, "We may bid the mob good day. No man can hold them down the other side." When they reached the mountain summit, even Clancy took a pull. It well might make the boldest hold their breath, for the wild hop scrub grew thickly, and the hidden ground was full of wombat holes, and any slip was death. But the man from Snowy River, he let his pony have his head, and he swung his stock whip round and gave a cheer, and he raced him down the mountain like a river down its bed, while the others stood and watched in very fear. And he sent the flintstones flying, but the pony kept his feet, and he cleared the fallen timber in his stride, and the man from Snowy River never shifted in his seat. It was grand to see that mountain horseman ride. Through the stringy barks and saplings, over rough and broken ground, down the hillside at a racing pace he went, and he never drew the bridle till he landed safe and sound at the bottom of that terrible descent. He was right amongst the horses as they climbed the farther hill, and the watchers on the hillside, standing mute, saw him ply the stock whip fiercely. He was right amongst them still as he raced across a clearing in pursuit. And they lost him for a moment where two mountain gullies meet in the ranges, but a final glimpse reveals on a dim and distant hillside the wild horses racing yet, with the man from Snowy River at their heels. And he ran them single-handed till their sides were white with foam, and he followed like a bloodhound on their track till they halted, coward and beaten. Then he turned their heads for home, and alone and unassisted brought them back. But his hardy mountain pony could scarcely raise a trot. It was blood from hip to shoulder from the spur, but his pluck was still undaunted, and his courage fiery hot, for never yet was mountain horse a cur. And down by Kosciuszko, where the pine-clad ridges raised their torn and rugged battlements on high, and the air as clear as crystal, and the white stars fairly blaze at midnight in a cold and frosty sky, and where around the overflow the reed beds sweep and sway to the breezes, and the rolling plains are wide, the man from Snowy River is a household word today, and the stockmen tell the story of his ride. Thank you. It sure is hot in here. Feel free to take off whatever clothes you like if you're feeling hot. I think I'm prohibited from doing it like that, but because it's on video. I always felt kind of envious of musicians because, and it's kind of the same thing I think, electricians want to be carpenters and everybody wants to be something they're not. And I've always been envious of musicians because they get to carry all those little cases around, like guitar cases and fiddle cases And upright string, no, I don't want to carry an upright string bass case. But, you know, we poets don't get to carry anything much around with us. But a couple of the things we do carry is we carry one. Anymore, everybody's got one of these things, you know, these little portable tape recorder things. And they're good. And it's best when you're driving the car to use one of those. Because in the old days, we used to like have the cooler there on the seat beside us and the pad, and you were writing, because things come into your head when you're driving. So you'd be writing away, and next thing you know, some guy coming the other way would be like, on the horn. But we still occasionally go back to these things, you know. And this, you can see by how the look of this book how old it is. And when I was young, I could read what was written in there. And now that I'm not so young, I have to get out the glasses, which I didn't actually get, I might add. Someone gave them to me, so who knows whether they work or not. Oh, that looks better. Let me see what we got written in here. No, that's no good. Oh, here's one. When I moved to Colorado, it was December '92. And in the year of 1993, my favorite sport came to Colorado. And that was the Colorado Rockies. And I might add, I was at the first spring training game. But I went along to watch them play, and of course it was a pretty quiet game, there wasn't much happening. And it was a balmy afternoon, great day, and my mind started to wander. And I remembered reading about how when they built Coors Field, they found a lot of dinosaur bones and things like that, evidence of people and creatures and things that had been here before. And so I decided I'd like to write something to give people the feel of how I felt that afternoon sitting there amongst 50,000 people and thinking about the past. And number 14 gets a mention in here because Huntress is one of the players. This one's called There's a Cowboy in Left Field. Well, I'm sitting in a crowd more than 50,000 strong, wishing I was number 14, hitting lots of balls real long. I'm from the land down under where sports are all the rage, and for reasons I'm not sure of, I've reached 50 years of age. I suffered bad from asthma when I was very small, but I was always good at any sport that had a bat and ball. I always wanted to be tall, just so I could excel. But someone wanted me to write before I learned to spell. I spent a lot of summers on the snowy mountain range, and coming from the city, I found everything was strange. I learned to muster cattle and to brand and ride a horse, and to fear a gully buster rushing down a watercourse. I learned to use a cattle dog to ease my daily load, but without horse and dog I'd never make it down the road. To plant a post and string some wire and stretch it till it sings, to love the silence of the bush, to hear the bellbirds ring. I met a young man on the track, his skin a different hue. He taught me of his people, his bushcraft was superior to anyone I knew. He taught me to respect the land, to love her like a mother, and we grew close and shared the love that one has for a brother. I learnt respect for ancient things and men who'd gone before. He taught me of his people, told me legend, song and war. And I carried with me all he taught throughout stock riding days, and made it work through Vietnam, those violent, sorry days. When I came to Colorado, my droving days were done. No longer could I sit a horse for days in blazing sun. I made some friends who took me out to learn about the West, to see where timeless canyons held the ancient ones at rest. I learned about the cowboy and his rough and ready ways, and learnt the many stories of the wild and lawless days. I understood the cowboy because I'd lived that way myself. And I understood the Indian and his love of nature's wealth. I knew that I could never be accepted by the tribe, and I knew that I could never be a cowboy, though I tried. But like the two of them, I had a passion for the land, from mountains high to rushing streams, to miles of burning sand. The Sioux were here, Apaches, Utes, Cheyenne, Arapaho, the mountain men, the trappers, and the mighty buffalo. There were dinosaurs before that left their bones for us to find, and in the Rocky Mountains gold for lucky men to mine. With my love of history and the things of ancient times, my respect for people gone before and setting down their rhymes, I can sit amongst this giant crowd and feel their presence still. Watch a man upon a painted pony sitting on a hill. Feel the thunder of the buffalo, see the dust of passing herds, the whisper of the grasslands as the wind gives flight to birds. See the passing of the dinosaurs, bones bleaching in the sun, the lonely cowboy riding herd with horse and rope and gun. And amidst the crack of bat and ball, the peanut shells and beer, they're fading into history, but I still feel them here. There's a dinosaur at catcher, and on plate he'll never yield. A warrior is on the mound, and there's a cowboy in left field. I have a friend sitting in the audience who I'd like to do a poem for, and I hope that it doesn't make her cry. The alternative is I could sing you a song and make you all cry. But I think that I had a special friend here in Morrison, Colorado, when I first came to live here, who did lots of things for me that a lot of people didn't know about, and offered me a hand of friendship that a lot of people didn't see. And he was a wonderful man. Unfortunately, he passed away earlier this year. But this was his favourite poem, and I hope it doesn't upset Sal too much, but I'd like to do it for Jimmy. It's called Billy Carpenter and Smith's Elastic Brace. Now, I don't know whether you all know, but braces in Australia are actually like suspenders here, you know, they're for holding your pants up. Okay? And I met a number of you, and I know that pretty near everybody has someone in their family who likes to stretch the truth just a fraction. Well, in my case, it was my uncle, and he knew a tale or two, and some were based on pure fact, but some were not quite true. And one tale he told that always brought a smile to my face was the tale of Billy Carpenter and Smith's Elastic Brace. Now, it was in the 1860s, up in Queensland, I recall, when men used to wear braces so their trousers wouldn't fall, till Smith invented something he was sure would take their place, made from one piece of elastic. So he just called it a brace. Now the elastic in this brace was a super stretchy blend. It could stretch from Perth to Darwin with a detour via Hill End. But before he started selling them, he gave one a short trial. And he got his mate, Bill Carpenter, to wear one for a while. Now, Bill wore this brace outside his coat for all the world to see. But when travelling home from town one day, it got caught on a tree. And Bill's faithful mount kept galloping along its onward course, and the elastic stretched a quarter mile, then flung him from his horse. It sent him hurtling towards town at twice the speed of sound, which is pretty bloody fast when you're only 10 feet off the ground. Well, he held his arms out just like wings to aid him in his flight, and the wind caught underneath his coat and gave him extra height, and he sailed over the blacksmith shop, and soon became aware that half the travellers in the street were pointing in the air. Is it a bird? Or Superman? Why don't we have a bet? At least we know it's not a plane, they're not invented yet. Well, he sailed over the public school and waved to all the people. But as he passed the Catholic church, the brace caught on the steeple. For a moment, Bill stood still in air. Oh, minor flight delay. Then the elastic pulled and sent him shooting back the other way. And just when it seemed his flight might end and land him in the dust, the brace would catch on something else and give him extra thrust. And for 7 days and 7 nights, once that brace get to a lot, until he cried, "God, please stop this flight. It's time that I got off." Well, he was sailing in a canyon down 500 foot of cliff when the brace caught on a mallee root quite old and gnarled and stiff. And Bill felt himself slowing the further he went down until he reached the bottom, landing gently on the ground. He turned to where the brace had snagged, and only said to cry. And the elastic then contracted, launching Bill into the sky. Well, this display of aerobatics soon attracted quite a crowd. As he peered through their binoculars, Bill sailed up through the clouds, and the locals waved their hats around and gave a mighty cheer to see their homegrown hero shooting through the stratosphere. And you can still hear old folks as they stagger out of bars saying, "We can still see Billy floating round amongst the stars." Well, I'm proud of Billy Carpenter and Smith's elastic brace, because 100 years before you Yanks, we had a man in space. So, you're welcome, Sal. I bet he was listening. I'd like to do something for you now to make you all cry. I don't often sing in public, and there's a reason. I guess you guys are about to find out about it. But I'd like to do you just a short song, and it's called The Diamantina Drover. And it's about a guy who went away from his home in the city up to the country and took a job driving cattle and wasn't sure that he knew what the hell he was doing, and got up there and did it, and ended up not wanting to come back. And a drover, you might understand, is like a trail herd in Australia, and the Diamantina is a river. And drays, which was also mentioned in the song, were really big old flat-top wagons as they used to cart bales of wool rather, to market and bring back the supplies from the city, and they went down twice a year. And it goes something like this. Faces in the photograph have faded. I can't believe he looks so much like me. For it's been 10 years today since I left for Old Cork Station, saying I won't be back till the droving's done. And the rain never falls on the dusty Diamantina. The drover finds it hard to change his mind, for the years have surely gone like the drays from Old Cork Station, and I won't be back till the droving's done. Seems like the sun comes up each morning, sets me up and takes it all away, for the dreaming through the night by the campfire's light ends with the burning sun of day. And the rain never falls on the dusty Diamantina. The drover finds it hard to change his mind, for the years have surely gone like the drays from Old Cork Station. I won't be back till the droving's done. Sometimes I think I'll settle back in Sydney, but it's been so long and it's hard to change your mind. Well, the cattle trail goes on, and the fences roll forever, and I won't be back when the drawing's done. 'Cause the rain never falls on the dusty diamantina. The drover finds it hard to change his mind, for the years have surely gone like the drays from old Cork Station, and I won't be back when the droving's done. Thank you. I hope that didn't hurt you as much as it hurt me. I'd like to finish up now with a poem that I just learned. And I call it a poem when in actual fact it's a song. I think we all have friends that we don't really know about. They're people we probably don't regard as our friends, but I know that all of us, if we like to read, get attached to one particular author or another, and we read everything that they write down, and we enjoy the hell out of it, and we remember a lot of it. And the same is true of music and song and poetry. And so I think that those people become our friends, even though we've never met them. And I always like to perform poetry that, some of my friends wrote. And this is the one that I just learned the day before yesterday. And it's called The Ringer and the Princess. And a ringer in Australia is like the top hand on the ranch. And a station is a very large ranch. And it goes like this. Everybody called him Dingo. He didn't seem to mind the name. Aboriginal and Asian blood ran 50-50 in his veins. With skin like saddle leather and an inscrutable kind of smile, beneath the brim of his akubra, he had the dreaming in his eyes. Well, she had bloodlines back to Europe. The boss's daughter, Mary Ann. Back home for Christmas on the station from a boarding school in Cairns. With a perfect face and figure, the boys would blush when she came by. And behind her back they called her Princess, because she had distance in her eyes. Yeah, the ringer and the princess. The dingo and the deer. Now I'll tell to you their story, because it's a yarn you'll like to hear. December rains fell with a vengeance from a cyclone in the Gulf. Dusty gullies turned to rivers. Plains became a sea of mud. So the boss called everyone together, the family and the station hands, to open gates and knock down fences, to give the stock a fighting chance. And the princess, she was out there, riding right beside the men, leading horses up to safety, and trying to bring the stragglers in. Till she heard a wild commotion a little further down the way. A mare had tried to cross a gully, and a foal was being washed away. Well, the young have always been impulsive, and the princess had no second thoughts. She spurred her mount into that river to try and save the drowning horse. But amidst the raging waters, her pony missed its step and fell, and with her foot caught in the stirrup, the princess disappeared as well. Now Dingo saw the whole thing happen, and like a man possessed, he rode straight into that swollen gully, about 100 yards below. By the time the others got there, all hope of fighting her had gone, till Dingo staggered from the water with the princess in his arms. Now, the princess runs the station. The boss, her dad, has long since died. And although she never married, the ringer's always by her side. And still the gossips talk about him, even after all these years. The ringer and the princess, the dingo and the deer. Thank you. Shirts. And I thought, tonight I'm going to wear a few and just show Bill up. So ladies and gentlemen, I got a friend of mine who's going to play for you next and sing for you. And I'll tell you what, if you guys don't rush outside after the show and buy his CD, I'll be amazed. He's nominated, he's opened all across the country. He's opened for people like Chris Ledoux and Terry Clark. He's nominated for the Rising Star Award at the Academy of Western Artists presentations in Fort Worth in October. He's a wonderful young man, one of the nicest people I've ever met in my life. And I'd like to introduce him to you now. Ladies and gentlemen, Brenn Hill.
Wow, you brought your friends. Thousand miles of wilderness they call the Great Divide, riding through the mountains on the northern Utah side. A man can really find himself in the gallows of the hills. He casts his gaze to the sunset, the starry rocks in the rills. The eagle flies across the sky, maybe to the mussel shell. I think of all the stories these mountains had to tell. Well, how'd it be to be first to see after riding across the plains, or coming west to stand the test on an old-time Union train? God must have took a hand at carving the Rockies of the West, and I take pride when I ride through the mountains I love best. When the snows are falling and the wild winds calling, them mountains ain't no. And it's a high and lonesome feeling, you riding all alone. With the help from Charles M. Russell, God took his mighty hand, and he saved his best for the Wild West, and he carved the devil's land. The wind has settled down, and the sky is fading blue, and the moon is on the rise again, and my day now is all through. Before I turn back to the trail that winds me back to home, I stare off into the evening, out across this Yellowstone, and somewhere in the sunset, God's smiling back at me. And I'm thinking for the West, and I know I've been blessed in a land where men are free. But when the snows are falling and the wild winds calling, them mountains ain't no. And it's a high and lonesome feeling when you're riding all alone. With the help from Charles and Russell, and God took his mighty hand, and he saved his best for the Wild West, and he carved the devil's land. Yeah, he saved his best for the Wild West, and he carved the devil's land. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. You know, I just got done with this new album last spring, and was able to bring a few copies here tonight, and, which is nice. They're for sale. pretty modestly prized. Anyway, I got to record a song on that album. I guess if you do if you play cowboy songs, you don't know an Ian Tyson tune or 2 or 4 or 7, then you're probably in the wrong place. So I got to record this song, and I heard this song for the first time in 1991 and never forgot a word of it. And he had just written it, so I always said that someday I would put it on an album. So this is MC Horses. Of course, you all know the story, and it pretty much tells itself if you don't. Having a drink at Stockman's, listening to the guitars ring. Jesse says, you know, they sold the MC horses. Well, I'll be damned, when was that? I hadn't heard a thing. Back in August, 100 head or more. Yeah, the people that come from everywhere just sit on high and low, thereby own a piece of the legend. With a cowherd all dispersed, the old cabby, she had to go. Back in August, 100 head more. Come on, boys, run 'em in. We're gonna let the seal begin. Last of the big Bermudas of the mighty MC. His horses here for everyone. The saddle them kids, let's get her done. By the time the Oregon sun goes down, the South Face history. The South Face history. So the MC crew, they rode 'em all, and the people all gathered around. The one old boy gave $2,000 for banjo. The banjo took his trailer apart, only tried to load him up for town. Back in August, 100 head more. If you ever had a beer at the 8L store, say hi to Chuck and Andy. Show you them big old steer heads up there hanging. When you ask where have they gone, hell, they gone like the MC cabby. Back in August, 100 head more. Come on, boys, run 'em in. We're gonna let this sail begin. Last of the big Bermudas of the mighty MC. Horses here for everyone. Saddle and kids, let's get her done. By the time the Oregon sun goes down, the South Face history. The South Face history. Having a drink at Stockman's, way out on the sagebrush sea. Jesse says, you know, they sold the MC horses. Thank you. So have any of you been to Bob's house, his new house up there? And yeah, we're all invited, so just go over there and follow him. No, actually, I got to go up there today, and there's some places in Utah kind of like that. And so anyway, this is for Bob and his new house because it's really cool. On the leeward side of the Avons, where the sun breaks over the ridge, this, by the way, for Bonnie too. There's a trail I like to ride on. No pavement, traffic, or bridge. And out across the flat by the pond and through the grove, I break off to the left up a snowy little cove. And Rondo breathes hard at the trot, and I spur him all the way so that we can make the mountain top just before midday. And there below the pines by noon I tie him off. I sit upon the big gray rock. And then I find the graceful hawk that flies through every drawn grove and searches for his prey. And I sit there in his mountain home to steal part of his day. His home of mountain majesty where cattle freely roam and storms that rage so wildly that it can't be called a home. I've seen this land from every nook and every worn-in trail, but I've never seen it up from where the mighty hawk can sail. Oh, I can hear him calling once, twice, and then he's gone. And it breaks the mountain silence with a haunting, longing song. As Rondo eats his grain I brought to give him for the ride, and me a tuna sandwich that cures the pain inside, the hawk takes roost upon a limb and we all dine together as he rests the wings that cut the winds that rustle through his feathers. To live, survive, he hunts again and calls his haunting cry, and it sets the scene in space for where a man would wish to die. When later Rondo turns for home, as the hawk is finally gone, to fly again so far and free, like me upon the Avon. Thank you. It's one of those things you can hold a conversation at the same time that you're playing. What's that now? You know, I was invited up to Anschute's Land and Livestock to not only to spend some time as a really in-the-way wrangler, but I also got to play a few tunes and you know, sitting around the fire after a roundup party and a long day in the saddle is very peaceful. And somebody commented on the piece of a fire, of a campfire, and how you can't have a camp without a campfire, I guess. And Scott McFarlane, who is the ranch manager at Bear River Land Livestock, commented on a story that wasn't so peaceful about fire. And this is the title song, the album that was released in the spring. We were trailing cattle down the Blue Fork to the river one hot, dry, sunny August afternoon. And it hadn't rained for days, and the heat was unforgiving, and cows were shriveling up like prunes. And we heard the horses whinny, the new scent on the air that came rolling off the sagebrush on the ridge. It was a ghostly, drifting, burning breath of death that made us rain up there and see flames engulf the Curtis River Bridge. And we yelled, "Right for the river, boys, run for your lives. Stampede these cattle, or leave them here to die. There's hellfire running on the mercy of the wind. So ride like you will never ride again." Well, the canyon roared like thunder as we crashed down through the pines. 100 cows and all our crew. The flames ate up the meadow that we left just a mile behind. We knew that there was nothing we could do but break for that Blue River at the bottom of the draw and pray the wind was slower than our horses. It was each man for himself, spurring flanks till they were raw, and heading hell for leather down each of their courses. We yelled, "Right for the river, boys, run for your lives. Stampede these cattle, or leave them here to die. There's hellfire running on the mercy of the wind. So ride like you will never ride again." Like a blessing, we all whooped and crashed and splashed into the water. As the smoke filled up the canyon up above. And through the haze we counted off, with every man allotted. We turned to see what is become what was. A whole canyon's worth of pasture gone, and seconds of the wind. Now only ashes scar what little grass remains. A blistered, smoky eyesore of the beauty that had been. Too long without the healing summer rain. We yelled right for the river, boys, run for your lives. Stampede these cattle, leave them here to die. There's hellfire running on the mercy of the wind. So ride like you will never ride again. Ride you may never ride again. Now I want to thank all you folks for having me out. I think that there's definitely something about Colorado people that just makes you nicer or something. Because we go a lot of places and we don't meet this many nice people. Today, I'm pretty overwhelmed because I was driving a fairly new vehicle over here and the light came on and it said check the engine. I know nothing about cars, you know, so I took it over here to Phil Longford and they rushed me in, and the guy that worked on the car is here tonight with his wife. That's Colorado for you. Not only that, but Bob and Maggie Mae stayed all day waiting for us while we were sitting there at the dealership watching the tennis matches. And so it was actually Ruzetsky won in the 5th set, and Rafter beat Chang in 3 sets. But you know, Maggie Mae and Bob Dougherty have been very nice to me, as well as all these folks here. They're all kind of my best friends, and want to thank them all for having me. How many of you would like to see Bob and Maggie Mae dance? I don't think there's...
You guys are gonna live to regret this.
She's very serious about this too, because she's, let's see, we're rooming actually, almost practically, huh? We don't, well, you know, pretty close. We share a wall. This is a love song, and I guess it's the only love song I have, but I just wish them the best. Nights like this, I wonder if I'm dreaming. You walk as if your feet are off the ground, almost like the world has stopped to watch you, waiting for that moment you come down. So nights like this, I stand a little taller to prove that I am worthy of your kiss. I live for the spell you put me under, the way I feel on nights like these. know tomorrow I'll be leaving. The memory of tonight still in my mind. And it's a long and lonesome highway. It takes me from this love I leave behind. So nights like this I never take for granted. The tender dying moments of our kiss. I live for the day we never have to say goodbye. The way I feel on nights like this. The way I feel on nights like these.
Thank you very much, folks. Appreciate it. Brenn Hill, ladies and gentlemen. All the way to you from Ogden, Utah. As I said, a wonderful young man and a fine talent.
Never let me walk you from my home.
That's what you were done with the shit thing, didn't you? This shit thing's gotta go on, you know?
Come all the way up here, or you want to sit there?
Right there.
Okay.
Well, I said back my butt right here.
Okay.
Hey, Slim.
Gary and John were up there. Yeah.
I think so. Who else, Bob?
I want to right across the street.
John, come on. All the performers. Can he fit on the other side in there?
Yeah, he's fine.
Hurry up, Sean.
He'll fit, no trouble. Hurry up!
Give me while I'm frowning in my mouth.
Donna's people think. Yeah. She get out with me. Hey, buddy. What's going on?
Come on, ride. Hop in.
Oh, yeah.
We got room. Okay. Go in.
in. Hi.
You all right, John? He was the guy with the shot his gun. Can we get out on the other side and let the cars go by? Thanks. Did you get that on video?
What? No.
That's funny. What happened? Almost had it. Yeah, I missed the wheel.
Carrier.
Oh. Thanks for the ride.
Oh, you bet. I wish we didn't have to take these guys over. We could hear you guys. Yeah.
Did Duncan go too? How cute.
Where's home? Early.
Pulling out of a mistake, Judge.
You didn't fall off. Yeah, really. We have video of that.
Hanging up. Who fell?
Great. The driver?
Were you up on top? I wish I could get up there. That was cool.
Hey, go around.
Go around.
Are you guys getting brag? Thank you. That was really fun.
Yes. Yes, we are.
Oh, okay.
You want to go to the liquor store with him? That's dangerous.
You can never have too many cut-ins. I like that. That's cute.
Brought your plan.
Oh.
You mean the way they've dressed it up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't fall.
Yeah.
I
Living on the road, my friend, gonna keep you free and clean. Now you wear your skin like iron, your breath as hard as kerosene. Weren't your mama's only boy, your favorite one to see? You began to cry when you said goodbye, sank into your Joe was a bandit boy, his horse was fast as polished steel, wore his gun outside his pants for all the honest world to feel. Pancho met his match, you know, the deserts down in Mexico. Nobody heard his dying word. That's the way it goes.